The distress beacon from Kepler Station cut through space like a scream in the darkness. Kim Minji felt her blood turn cold as she listened to the final transmission in her quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony. The voice belonged to Colony Administrator Bae Jung-ho, a man she had shared dinner with just 3 months ago during her last inspection tour. "This is Kepler Station to any receiving vessel. We are under attack by unknown hostiles, multiple Dreadnought-class ships, origin unidentified. They're not responding to our surrender signals, they're just destroying everything. The orbital farms are gone, the residential domes are breached. We're evacuating to the underground shelters, but their weapons are cutting through solid, rock-like paper." Static filled the recording. Then Jung-ho's voice returned, broken and desperate. "Tell our families on Earth we tried to build something beautiful out here. Tell them we—" The transmission ended in white noise. Minji's hands shook as she forwarded the recording to Earth Command. Within hours, 2 more colonies went silent. Haven's Rest, a mining operation housing 50,000 workers, transmitted for only 47 seconds before their signal died. The message was simple and terrifying. "Massive alien fleet approaching. They're not here to negotiate." New terrors. Death took the longest. The agricultural world had 2.3 million inhabitants spread across 3 continents. Their orbital defense platforms managed to hold off the attackers for 6 hours, giving them time to broadcast detailed footage of their destroyers. Minji watched in horror as sleek, angular warships the size of city blocks systematically reduced humanity's breadbasket colony to smoking craters. The final transmission came from Dr. Oh Seung-min, the colony's chief scientist. His laboratory. Cameras showed him barricaded in an underground research facility as explosions shook the ceiling above. "We've identified the attackers through spectral analysis of their weapon signatures. These are Kaloth Empire vessels. I repeat, the Kaloth Empire is systematically destroying human colonies. This is not piracy. This is genocide." The feed went dark as the laboratory collapsed. 3 days later, Minji stood in the corridors of the Galactic Council Station, her diplomatic credentials heavy in her hand. The massive structure orbited the neutral world of Axiom Prime, its crystalline spires housing representatives from 237 different species. She had walked these halls for 5 years, building relationships, negotiating trade agreements, slowly earning humanity's place among the stars. Now she came bearing evidence of humanity's extinction. The council chambers buzzed with alien voices, speaking in dozens of languages. The Vorthak delegation hissed among themselves, their reptilian scales reflecting the chamber's blue lighting. The massive Gorvani representatives rumbled in their deep bass voices, while the ethereal Mysari floated in their containment fields, communicating through color changes in their gaseous forms. At the center sat Chairman Zilkstar, an insectoid creature whose compound eyes could focus on multiple speakers simultaneously. His forearms gestured for silence as Minji approached the speaker's podium. "Honorable council members," Minji began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber through the universal translator system. 3 human colonies have been attacked and destroyed. 2 million citizens are missing, presumed dead. I bring evidence that these attacks were perpetrated by the Kaloth Empire." She activated the holographic display, showing the recorded footage from New Terra. The images of burning cities and fleeing civilians filled the chamber's center. Several smaller species representatives gasped at the brutality, but the major powers remained unmoved. Vorthak Sector Admiral Hesekar rose from his delegation section, his forked tongue tasting the air dismissively. "Ambassador Minji speaks of attacks in contested space. Pirates and raiders operate frequently in those sectors. Humans chose to expand beyond their protection capabilities. The consequences were predictable." "These weren't pirates," Minji insisted, her diplomatic training warring with her rage. "The spectral analysis clearly identifies Kaloth military-grade plasma weaponry. These were systematic extermination operations." The Kaloth representative, a towering humanoid with 4 arms and silver skin, stood slowly. General Kethmak's voice resonated with artificial calm. "The Kaloth Empire deploys security forces to maintain stability in our territorial boundaries. If human settlements violated established borders, appropriate defensive measures were taken." Defensive measures? Minji's voice cracked. You murdered children, families, entire communities of farmers and miners who posed no threat to anyone. Chairman Zilkstar's mandibles clicked for order. The Council acknowledges the Terran delegation's concerns. We will establish a monitoring committee to investigate these incidents. Motion to table pending formation of subcommittee. Table? Minji stared at the chairman in disbelief. While you form committees, more colonies could be dying, but the vote was already in motion. 237 species cast their decisions through the electronic voting system. The results appeared on the main display. Motion passed. Investigation tabled pending committee formation. Estimated timeline, 6 months. Minji left the chambers in stunned silence, her diplomatic credentials suddenly feeling worthless. In the decor corridor outside, she encountered Ambassador HFY of the peaceful Zenthari Collective, a species known for their commitment to justice. I'm sorry, Ambassador Minji, the tall, blue-skinned alien said softly. My delegation voted for investigation, but we lack the influence to override the major powers' decision. Why? Minji asked. Why won't they act? HFY's large dark eyes reflected genuine sadness. Because humans are still seen as newcomers. Your species has been part of galactic civilization for only 50 years. The Kaloth Empire has existed for millennia. The Council fears destabilizing relationships with established powers over what they perceive as a minor territorial dispute. As Minji walked toward her shuttle, she understood the terrible truth. Humanity's peaceful expansion, their careful diplomacy, their willingness to follow galactic law, all of it had been interpreted as weakness. The galaxy's powers had calculated that humans were too insignificant to defend, too isolated to matter, too patient to retaliate. They had made a grave miscalculation. The encrypted data packet arrived at Deep Space Monitoring Station Gamma 7 at 0347 hours ship time. Captain Park Jinwoo was nursing his third cup of synthetic coffee in his quarters when the priority alert chimed through his personal terminal. The red classification marker made his stomach drop. Ultra-secret eyes. Only command authorization required. Jinwoo entered his biometric codes and watched the screen flicker to life. What he saw next would haunt him for the rest of his life. The footage came from New Terra's orbital surveillance network, captured in the final hours before the colony's destruction. Massive Kaloth dreadnoughts hung in space like metal vultures, their hull designs angular and predatory. Each ship stretched over 2 kilometers in length, bristling with weapon arrays that glowed with deadly energy. Jinwoo had studied alien warship classifications for 15 years, but he had never seen firepower like this, deployed against civilian targets. The first barrage struck New Terra's capital city of New Seoul during the morning rush hour. Plasma. Beams wider than city blocks carved through residential districts, turning homes into vapor in seconds. The orbital cameras captured families running through streets that erupted in flame around them. Children clutched stuffed animals as their parents carried them toward evacuation centers that no longer existed. But it was the voices that broke him. 8-year-old Kim Minho had managed to access an emergency communication terminal in his school's basement. His small face filled the screen, tears streaming down his cheeks as explosions shook the building above. Mommy, if you can hear this, I love you. The teachers say the bad ships are coming to our school too. I'm being brave like you. Taught me. Tell Daddy his little soldier is strong. The transmission cut to static as the school took a direct hit. 9-year-old Lee Yuna spoke to the camera from her family's farm on the northern continent. Grandma, the sky is on fire. All the animals are scared. The horses won't stop running. Mommy says we have to go underground, but I wanted to tell you about my drawing. I made you a picture of Earth. I hope I can show it to you someday. Her recording ended when the farmhouse's roof collapsed. Teenager Oh Tae-young had climbed to his apartment building's roof to get better signal strength. Behind him, the city burned as he spoke into his handheld device. Hey, Mum. Hey, Dad. If you're watching this, don't blame yourselves for letting me come to New Terra for the engineering program. I got to see the stars up close. I got to help build something amazing. The Kaloth ships are beautiful in a terrible way. Their technology is incredible. I wish I could have learned from them instead of this. The building shuddered as weapon fire struck nearby. Taeyong's last words were cut short. Jinwoo had to pause the recording 3 times to compose himself. Each voice represented not just individual tragedy, but the systematic murder of humanity's future. These colonies had been humanity's greatest achievement, self-sustaining worlds, where Earth's children could grow up under alien suns, building new societies among the stars. Now they were graveyards. His communications officer Lee Somin knocked and entered, her face pale. "Sir, Priority 1 transmission from Earth Command. All diplomatic personnel are being recalled immediately. Ambassador Kim Minji's transport launched from the Galactic Council Station an hour ago." Jinwoo nodded absently, still staring at the frozen image of young Taeyong against the burning city. "Any word from Fleet Command about response operations?" "Negative. Sir, official channels remain silent regarding military action." Somin hesitated. "Captain, there are rumors spreading through the crew, stories about secret shipyard construction, classified weapons research. The engineering staff is asking questions about resource allocations that don't match our official mission parameters." "What kind of questions?" "Why we've been mining asteroids for rare metals instead of standard monitoring duties. Why our patrol routes have changed to scout jump points near Kaloth space. Why Chief Engineer Yang Dongyun has been conducting weapons tests on obsolete hull sections." Somin lowered her voice. "Sir, the crew knows something is happening. They want to know if humanity is going to respond to the colony attacks." Jinwoo turned back to his terminal and accessed the next data file. The Kaloth Empire's official statement appeared on screen, delivered by Admiral Vexthul from the deck of their flagship. The alien's 4 arms gestured dismissively as he spoke to galactic news networks. "The Kaloth Empire has conducted necessary security operations to eliminate terrorist elements threatening regional stability. Human settlements in disputed territories were found to be harboring anti-Kaloth organizations. Our response was measured and appropriate to the threat level. We regret any civilian casualties, but the responsibility lies with human authorities who failed to prevent terrorist activities in their colonies." The lies burned worse than the truth. Jinwoo had read the colony reports. New terror grew food. Haven's Rest mined asteroids. Kepler Station studied stellar phenomena. The only terrorist activity these colonies had engaged in was existing in space the Kaloth Empire wanted to claim. 2.3 million human lives erased, while the galaxy watched and calculated the political costs of intervention. The Galactic Council had already moved on to debating trade regulations and mining rights as if human extinction was just another agenda item. Jinwoo opened a secure channel to Earth Command and began typing his response. His fingers moved with steady purpose across the holographic keyboard. "Fleet Command, this is Captain Park Jinwoo, commanding Deep Space Monitoring Station, Gamma 7. Request immediate transfer to Project Silence. Authorization level sufficient for full operational participation. Personal motivation, witnessed. Complete new Terra Colony archive. Request revenge duty assignment." Somin read over his shoulder and frowned. "Sir, there is no Project Silence in our military databases. I've checked all classified program listings." Jinwoo sent the message and stood, walking to the observation deck where Earth's sun appeared as just another star among billions. Somewhere in that vast darkness, human engineers were building something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that would make the Kaloth Empire regret their calculation that humanity was too weak to matter. "There will be," he said quietly, watching his message disappear into the communications network. "There will be." The galaxy noticed when humanity went silent. Trade routes that had carried human goods for 50 years suddenly emptied. Diplomatic missions that had operated on 200 worlds quietly closed their doors. Human merchant vessels that had traveled peaceful trade lanes simply vanished from galactic commerce networks. The Kaloth Empire celebrated this disappearance as proof of their successful intimidation campaign. Other species assumed humanity had retreated to Earth, accepting their role as a minor civilization too weak to challenge galactic powers. The Galactic Council removed human agenda items from their meetings, considering the matter closed. They were catastrophically wrong. Admiral. Joy De-hyun floated in the zero-gravity construction bay of Shipyard Omega, hidden in the permanent shadow of Luna's far side. Through his helmet's visor, he watched thousands of human workers and automated systems putting finishing touches on the most ambitious project in human history. The TCS Retribution stretched 3 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull gleaming, with adaptive armor plating that shifted between mirror-bright and void-black depending on tactical requirements. For 18 months of absolute secrecy, De-hyun spoke into his comm unit as he drifted toward the ship's massive docking port. Every resource Earth could spare, every brilliant mind our species could produce, all focused on this single vessel, the Facet. Shipyard itself was a marvel of hidden engineering. Massive asteroid haulers had delivered raw materials through carefully planned routes that avoided all known alien sensor networks. Mining operations on distant moons had worked around the clock, their output flowing to Luna through cargo ships disguised as exploration vessels. The entire project had been funded by liquidating humanity's galactic investments, selling off decades of careful economic expansion to finance their response to genocide. Chief Engineer Yoon Hyun met De-hyun at the primary airlock, her face showing the exhaustion of 18 months spent perfecting impossible technology. Admiral, you need to see what we've accomplished. The fusion antimatter hybrid drives alone represent a leap forward that puts us decades ahead of current galactic propulsion standards. They traveled through corridors lined with adaptive armor that could reconfigure itself based on incoming weapon signatures. The ship's interior buzzed with activity as human technicians made final adjustments to systems that combined the best of human innovation with salvaged alien technology, acquired through decades of careful diplomatic relationships. We studied every piece of alien tech we could get our hands on, Hyun explained as they entered the main engineering bay. Remember those cultural exchange programs, the scientific cooperation treaties? Every alien government thought they were sharing outdated technology with primitive humans. They never imagined we could reverse engineer their systems and improve them. The ship's power core hummed with barely contained energy. Fusion reactors fed antimatter containment systems that had been redesigned using principles from Vorthak shield technology. The result was a power output that exceeded anything in the known galaxy. Our weapon systems incorporate Mysari energy focusing techniques with human targeting computers, Hyun continued, her voice filled with quiet pride. The Kaloth Empire's own sensor data helped us design the adaptive shielding. Every species that ignored our diplomatic requests for help unknowingly contributed to their own future defeat. They reached the ship's command center, where Captain Nam Jisoo stood reviewing tactical displays with her senior staff. The bridge was smaller than traditional human designs, built for efficiency rather than comfort. Every surface displayed real-time information about ship systems, tactical situations, and crew status. Jisoo turned as they approached, her face bearing the same grim determination that had defined humanity's response to the colony attacks. Admiral, Commander Hwang Min-jae reports that all weapon systems are calibrated and ready. We've run 17 different combat simulations against known Kaloth ship configurations. Our success probability exceeds 93% in all scenarios. What about crew readiness? De-hyun asked. Every volunteer aboard this ship lost family in the colony attacks, Jisoo replied. My own brother was farming on New Terra with his wife and 2 children. Lieutenant Commander Song Hyejin lost her parents on Haven's Rest. Engineer Park Kyung-soo's daughter was studying at Kepler Station. She gestured to the bridge crew, each focused intently on their preparation duties. We've spent 18 months training together, perfecting our coordination, learning every system on this ship. The Kaloth Empire thinks they broke our spirit when they murdered our colonies. They're about to learn that grief can forge the strongest steel. The tactical display showed current galactic intelligence reports. Kaloth Empire forces had grown bolder in the months since the colony attacks, expanding their territorial claims and threatening other minor species. The Galactic Council continued to debate the formation of investigation committees while more civilizations fell under Kaloth influence. Their latest intelligence reports classify humanity as a neutralized threat, Jisoo continued. They've redeployed their border fleets to other expansion zones. Their homeworld's defense grid operates at peacetime readiness levels. They genuinely believe we've accepted defeat. Daehyun studied the ship's crew roster displayed on the nearest screen. 347 volunteers, each personally, selected for both technical expertise and personal motivation. The psychological profiles showed individuals who had channeled their grief into laser-focused determination. These weren't soldiers seeking glory or conquest. They were grieving, family members demanding justice. "Admiral," called out Communications Officer Bae Ji-yeon from her station, "long-range sensors are picking up standard Kaloth patrol patterns near their homeworld. Their Victory Day celebration is scheduled for next week, commemorating their successful pacification of human territorial aggression." The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. The Kaloth Empire planned to celebrate human extinction while humanity's most advanced warship prepared to deliver a very different message. "Chief Engineer," Daehyun addressed Haeun, "final systems check. I want every component verified and ready for combat operations." "All primary systems operational, Admiral. Adaptive shielding shows 400% improvement over standard. Human designs, the weapon systems—" Haeun paused, her expression mixing technical pride with grim satisfaction. "Sir, they'll deliver our message clearly. The Kaloth Empire will understand exactly what they've awakened." Captain Jisoo moved to the central command chair, her hand resting on the armrest that would soon control humanity's response to genocide. "The Kaloth think we've forgotten our dead. They believe 18 months of silence means we've accepted their judgment, that human lives don't matter." She looked around the bridge at her crew, each face reflecting the same quiet determination that had driven humanity's secret preparation. Time to remind them that humans never forget our children. The hyperspace exit portal opened like a wound in space above Kaloth Prime, crackling with blue-white energy that made the system's twin suns seem dim by comparison. The TCS Retribution emerged from the swirling vortex with deliberate slowness, its 3-kilometer hull reflecting the light from 10,000 Kaloth warships arranged in perfect formation around their homeworld. Captain Nam Jisoo stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display populate with enemy contacts. Her crew worked in absolute silence, 18 months of preparation distilled into this single moment. The ship's adaptive armor shifted from mirror-bright to tactical black as they cleared the hyperspace distortion field. "Captain," reported Sensor Officer Kim Min-seo, detecting massive fleet concentrations. "Preliminary count shows over 10,000 vessels of various classes. They're arranged in ceremonial formation, not combat deployment." Through the main view screen, Kaloth Prime gleamed like a jewel against the starfield. The planet's silver cities sparkled with celebration lights, their orbital platforms crowded with civilian vessels gathered to witness their empire's Victory Day parade. Massive holographic displays, projected across the planet's upper atmosphere, showed images of burning human colonies celebrating the successful pacification of humanity's territorial expansion. "Sir," Communications Officer Bae Ji-yeon called out. Receiving multiple hails from Kaloth Fleet Command, they're demanding identification and immediate surrender. Jisoo watched the closest Kaloth dreadnoughts begin to turn toward them, their weapon arrays powering up with threatening orange glows. Each enemy ship stretched over 2 kilometers in length, bristling with the same plasma weapons that had reduced New Terra to ash. Under normal circumstances, a single human vessel facing such overwhelming odds would have no choice but retreat or destruction. These were not normal circumstances. "Open a channel to the fleet flagship," Jisoo ordered. "Let's hear what they have to say." The view screen flickered, displaying the bridge of a massive Kaloth command vessel. Admiral Threxel filled the frame, his forearms gesturing dismissively as his compound eyes focused on the human captain. Behind him, dozens of Kaloth officers worked at their stations, their silver skin gleaming under the bridge's harsh lighting. "Unknown. Threxel, you are in violation of Kaloth space during a sacred celebration." Threxel's voice boomed through the universal translator. "Identify yourself and surrender immediately, or be destroyed as an example to other species who might disturb our territorial sovereignty." Jisoo stepped forward, her hands clasped behind her back. Admiral Threxal, I presume. I've studied your tactical records extensively. Your species has an impressive history of military victories against opponents who couldn't fight back. You dare speak with such insolence? Threxal's mandibles clicked with anger. State your vessel's designation and prepare for boarding. Your ship will be added to our Victory Day display as proof of human submission. I am Captain Nam Jisoo of the Terran colonial ship Retribution. Her voice carried across not just to the flagship, but to every ship in the system, as her communications officer opened channels to the entire Kaloth fleet. You wanted our silence, Admiral. You murdered our children to achieve it. You mistook our patience for weakness. Threxal's expression shifted from anger to amusement. Captain Nam Jisoo, your arrival is perfectly timed. Our celebration honors the successful elimination of human terrorist colonies that threatened regional stability. One primitive human ship against our entire victory fleet? Your species truly learns slowly. The laughter from the Kaloth bridge carried across the channel, joined by similar sounds from other ships, as word spread through their fleet. To them, humanity's response was a final gesture of defiance from a broken species, touching in its futility but ultimately meaningless. Weapons officer, Jisoo said quietly to Commander Huang Minjae, target their flagship, full power to primary antimatter arrays. Targeting systems locked, Captain. All weapon banks charged and ready. Jisoo looked directly into the view screen, meeting Threxal's compound gaze. Admiral, you celebrate the murder of farmers, miners and scientists, children who never held weapons, families who came to the stars seeking peace. Today you learn the difference between innocents and soldiers. Enough of this theater, Threxal snarled, his forearms moving across his command console. All ships destroy this pathetic vessel. Let its wreckage join our Victory Day tribute. The Retribution's weapons spoke first. Directed antimatter beams erupted from the ship's primary arrays, streams of pure annihilation that crossed the space between vessels at near light speed. The technology combined human particle physics breakthroughs with alien focusing techniques, creating weapons that existed beyond current galactic understanding. The beams struck Threxal's flagship amidships, and the massive dreadnought simply ceased to exist along a 100-meter section of its hull. Atmosphere, crew, and bulkheads vanished into component atoms as the antimatter found matter to annihilate. The great ship broke in half, its two sections spinning away in different directions as secondary explosions rippled through its length. Target. The next command vessel, Jisoo ordered, her voice calm despite the carnage unfolding on screen. Continue firing Pattern Alpha. The Kaloth fleet finally began responding, thousands of plasma weapons firing at once. The space around Retribution filled with deadly energy, as enough firepower to level continents focused on the lone human ship. The adaptive shields activated. 18 months of studying alien technology had produced defensive systems beyond anything the galaxy had seen. The shields didn't simply absorb incoming energy. They analyzed it, adapted to it, and redirected it back at attackers with improved focusing and increased power. Kaloth plasma beams struck the Retribution's shields and bounced back as concentrated lances of death, turning their own weapons against them. Incredible, breathed Sensor Officer Kim Min-seo. Shield efficiency is holding at 127% of baseline. We're actually gaining power from their attacks. Dreadnought after dreadnought fell to their own redirected weapons fire. The Retribution moved through the enemy formation like a ghost, its adaptive armor shifting to match the starfield behind it, while its weapons carved through ships that had been designed to be invincible. Captain, reported Tactical Officer Park Sung-ho, enemy fleet coordination is breaking down. Multiple ships attempting to retreat, but their ceremonial formation is working against them. They're colliding with each other, trying to establish firing positions. 7 minutes after the first shot was fired, the Kaloth Victory Fleet was drifting wreckage. Thousands of ships that had celebrated human extinction now floated as twisted metal monuments to the Empire's miscalculation. Emergency beacons cried out across the debris field, but no rescue vessels approached the human ship that had single-handedly destroyed their greatest fleet. Jisoo stood amid the silence of her bridge, watching the tactical display clear of hostile contacts. Communications broadcast on all frequencies. I want every species in the galaxy to hear this message. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Nam Ji-Soo of the Terran colonial ship Retribution, broadcasting to all galactic civilizations. The Koloth Empire murdered 2.3 million human civilians and celebrated their deaths as a victory over terrorism. Today, they learned that humanity draws a clear distinction between innocents and soldiers, between patience and weakness, between justice and revenge. She paused, looking at the debris field that had once been 10,000 warships. We offered peace. You chose genocide. The lesson is now complete. The Retribution moved through Koloth space like a methodical ghost of vengeance, its adaptive hull shifting between mirror-bright and void-black as it approached each military installation. Captain Nam Ji-Soo stood on the bridge watching tactical displays populate with targets that had been marked for 18 months of careful planning. Next target, Captain, reported Navigation Officer Choi Wonbin. Koloth Military, Station Kexva, approximately 200,000 personnel. Primary function, training facility for colonial suppression forces. Ji-Soo nodded grimly. This was the base where Koloth soldiers learned to attack civilian populations. The same techniques used against human colonies had been perfected here, through centuries of crushing other species' expansion efforts. Communications, open all galactic frequencies. It's time the galaxy learned some names. The holographic display in the ship's center activated, showing the face of a small human boy with bright eyes and a gap-toothed smile. His image was transmitted across every communication network in known space, reaching billions of beings on thousands of worlds. This is Park Min-soo, age 7, Ji-Soo's voice carried across the stars. He loved building toy spaceships and dreamed of becoming an engineer like his father. He died on New Terra when Koloth plasma beams reduced his school to ash during mourning. Classes? The antimatter beams fired as she spoke, carving through Station Kexvar's defensive shields like they were made of paper. The training facility's weapons arrays, designed to intimidate weaker species, couldn't even scratch the Retribution's adaptive armor. The station broke apart in controlled demolition, its destruction timed precisely with the boy's memorial. Another face appeared on the galactic broadcast. A teenage girl with her hair in pigtails, holding a certificate from her science fair victory, Kim Yoonji, age 15. She discovered a new method for growing crops in low-gravity environments. Her research could have fed millions across the galaxy. She was murdered while trying to help other children evacuate from Haven's rest mining station. The Retribution's weapons spoke again, this time targeting the massive Koloth shipyard where the dreadnoughts used against human colonies had been constructed. The facility stretched across 50 kilometers of orbital space, its construction bays filled with warships, being prepared for future colonial suppression missions. The antimatter beams cut through the shipyard's superstructure with surgical precision, severing power conduits and atmosphere containment systems, while leaving escape pods and life support sections intact. This wasn't about maximizing casualties. It was about sending a message that humanity could distinguish between soldiers and civilians, even when their enemies could not. Lee Tae-hyung, age 34, Ji-Soo continued as the shipyard dissolved into drifting wreckage. He was a teacher who came to Kepler Station to study stellar phenomena and share his knowledge with the next generation. His last transmission was reading a bedtime story to students hiding in the station's emergency shelters. Across the galaxy, species that had never heard of the human colonies watched in fascination and growing fear. The Vorthak Sector Council called emergency sessions. The Mysari Collective's gas form representatives shifted through alarmed color patterns. Even the ancient Gorvani, who had witnessed the rise and fall of dozens of galactic civilizations, rumbled in their deep voices about the implications of humanity's response. In the Galactic Council chambers on Axiom Prime, Chairman Zilkstar's compound eyes focused on multiple displays showing the Retribution's methodical destruction of Koloth military assets. His mandibles clicked in patterns that indicated deep concern as he watched a single human vessel dismantle an empire that had dominated galactic politics for millennia. "How is this possible?" demanded Vorthak Admiral Hesekar, his reptilian, scales shifting to stress patterns. "Our intelligence reports classified human technology as decades behind galactic standards." Ambassador Yethley of the Zenthari Collective consulted her delegation's analysis. The weapon signatures are unlike anything in our databases. They appear to be using directed antimatter streams, but with focusing technology that exceeds our theoretical models. Their defensive systems are actively adapting to incoming weapons fire and somehow redirecting it back at attackers. The Retribution continued its broadcast as it approached the next target. The face of an elderly woman appeared, smiling as she tended a garden of earth flowers growing under an alien sun. Grandmother Seo Youngsuk, age 73. She spent her retirement years on New Terra, teaching children how to grow food and preserve seeds from their homeworld. She died protecting the colony's genetic seed bank, hoping future generations could continue her work. The weapons fired. Again, this time targeting Kaloth Command Base Prime, the nerve center of their military operations. The base's massive communication arrays had coordinated the colony attacks, transmitting orders that resulted in the deaths of millions. Now those same arrays crumbled under antimatter bombardment, their debris spreading across orbital space, like metallic snow. Our sensors show 47 more Kaloth military installations within range, reported Tactical Officer Park Sung-ho. Estimated time to complete the mission, 6 hours 14 minutes. Continue the broadcasts, Jisoo ordered. 2,300,743 names. The galaxy will hear them all. As the Retribution systematically dismantled the Kaloth Empire's military infrastructure, something unprecedented began happening across known space. Species that had remained neutral in galactic conflicts started broadcasting their own messages of support for humanity's actions. The Rigelian Trade Federation publicly condemned the colony attacks. The Centauri Mining Consortium offered technical assistance to human survivors. Most significantly, smaller species that had suffered under Kaloth expansion began speaking openly about atrocities they had endured in silence for centuries. The Delphani Waterworld inhabitants shared recordings of their cities being poisoned. The crystalline Sivari showed footage of their song crystals being shattered for entertainment. The furry Kepthari revealed mass graves of their children killed. For territorial security, Captain Communications Officer Bai Ji-yeon reported with wonder in her voice, "We're receiving over 3,000 messages of support from species across the galaxy. Many are sharing their own experiences with Kaloth oppression." The final military target was Admiral Threxel Memorial Station, hastily renamed after the fleet's destruction at Kaloth Prime. The station had been constructed as a symbol of Kaloth power, its weapon arrays capable of sterilizing entire planets. It was also where the orders for the human colony attacks had originated. As the antimatter beams reduced the station to component atoms, Jisoo broadcast her final message. "We offered peace to the galaxy. We followed your laws, respected your territories and sought cooperation with all species. When genocide was committed against our people, we asked for justice through proper channels. You chose to ignore our pleas and allow mass murder to go unpunished." The Retribution began turning away from Kaloth space, its mission complete. Behind them, the remnants of a once mighty empire struggled to comprehend how their civilization had been brought to its knees in less than 8 hours. "Now you understand that humanity doesn't conquer for glory or territory. We don't seek to dominate other species or expand our influence through force. But we will never again stay silent while our people are murdered. We will never again trust the galaxy's institutions to protect the innocent." As the ship prepared to jump to hyperspace, long-range sensors detected massive construction activity in Earth's solar system. Automated shipyards were working around the clock, building vessels that would dwarf even the Retribution. Humanity's silence had ended, and their restraint had limits. The galaxy had learned a truth that would reshape interstellar politics for generations to come. When humans went quiet, they weren't surrendering, they were preparing. The end.